Okay, we have a bonus before I go on to our next features, which I haven't even searched for them yet. I don't know what they're gonna be. You're going for a pretty big surprise. Anyway, my top 10 hottest animated guys. I just kind of came across this while I was looking for other things. This is... This is involved... Jesus. Sorry, I'm allergic to fucking assholes who write about farts and jack off to it. I'm just... Okay, this is really long, so if you wanna really get to know, Black Blue Dog on DeviantArt, this is where you would start here, guys, because it's I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the whole thing. I don't give a shit. It's gonna happen, and that's just how it is. So, let's, die, I guess, is what we would do at this time in our fucking... Now you're probably thinking, hey Liam, listen man, you know, people, animated guys can be hot. I totally agree with that. I absolutely would love to fuck Bowser, Buck from Ice Age 3, Toothless, I got a whole list, you know, I'm a fucking furry faggot, whatever, it's cool. The issue is that this particular individual is one of our fart fetishist friends, and that's cool, so we're gonna just kind of go. I don't know what else to do. I'm literally gonna start from the absolute prologue and just kind of ride through this. I did a skim, and okay. Warning. If you are under the age of 18, are sensitive to sexual talk involving males, are not physically attracted to males, and or are sensitive to the sexualization of non-human characters, or of elements not perceived as the mainstream idea of sexy, read this countdown at your own risk, or move on to another deviation or activity. I will not be held solely responsible for offending or disgusting you. You have been warned. At least he puts a disclaimer. That's pretty kind. Alrighty. Hey y'all, Black Blue Dog here. I'm out of the closet to give you my first top 10 list. Yeah, when I said out of the closet, I meant that both literally and metaphorically. What? So I have a feeling I know what all of you who don't know me all that well are thinking. What? This Blue Dog closet monster is gay? Well, the truth is, yes, I am, in fact, gay. I sure don't act like it, do I? Well, it's true. Yes, I like guys. But hey, guess that's good news for all of you fangirls out there. Oh yeah, and that shouldn't come as a surprise to my closest friends and watchers here, because anyone who knows me really well knows that I'm gay. But just saying that for those who don't know yet. Or those who haven't seen my gallery already. Okay, so what does my obvious yet not so obvious homosexuality have to do with my first top 10 list here on DA? Well, I'm using that to highlight a nice custom that a lot of people on the internet like to partake in, and to jump on that bandwagon myself, revealing who I think are the hottest animated characters, in this case, all male. Because let's face it, there are going to be plenty of animated characters out there, whether they be from movies, video games, TV shows, or anime. Particularly anime. Good God. Who will get us internet users worked up, if you know what I mean. There are memes on DeviantArt dedicated to these types of characters, those that manage to get people, well, you know. The two most prominent memes of this type are the top 10 hottest animated chicks and the top 10 hottest animated guys. And I'm going to be using those memes as basis for my first two top 10 lists. Why don't I use the memes myself? Well, for one thing, I prefer to talk in a bit of detail about my choices. Also, I'll most likely act weird when it comes to collecting pics of my choices. Why? It's just a weird thing I have. And I'll talk a bit more about weird things I have a little later. Man, that sounds kind of wrong. So, first on the agenda, since I am a proud gay monster, after all, is Hottest Animated Guys. And I'll be counting down my top 10 picks for who I think of all the male characters in the worlds of animated movies, TV shows, and video games, sorry, no anime here, are the hottest, cutest, and downright sexiest. And as a bonus, for each entry, I'll be including at least one link to some DeviantArt fan art of him, with an exception or two. Man, I'm getting a bit excited just thinking about it. Okay, now before I begin, I have to bring up the, weird things again. Actually, these are kind of disclaimers that you, the audience, should know about. First of all, I must tell you that the mainstream definitions of hot and sexy are, a bit different from mine. These hottest animated characters lists are really about eye of the beholder, because one person's hot bod is another person's mood killer. In this case, I'm the beholder, and these are my personal picks. If you don't think my picks are hot and sexy, that's fine, but just don't blame me for killing your libido. Libido? Sorry. Just don't blame me for killing your libido when I warn you. Second, please note that you will be exposed to a lot of my biggest fetishes when viewing this list. Everyone has them, and as such, I have my own. But again, I have the beholder. But again, those things are my closest friends and watchers should already know well about. That's good. That's great, dude. I'm glad you have close friends. I'm glad you have I'm glad you have a community to fucking support you. I support you. Fuck it. And lastly, I'll positively be going into the territory of too much information about sexy stuff. You know, asses, legs, bellies, that kind of thing. So, hope you're not grossed out by mentioning of body parts. So that's about it for disclaimers. And if you haven't switched away from this deviation in fear and you decided to stay, then that means you must be ready for the countdown. So, here's to my watchers, as well as all you gay guys and desperate fangirls with weird fetishes who are staying, because these are my top 10 hottest animated guys. That was just the prologue, folks. Let's get right into the news. Number 10. Kratos from God of War, who has the distinct honor of being the only human on this list. Oh my god. Yes, that's what I said, because this is my list, after all. Now, when you hear about the sexiest video game men, you would most likely see mentions of Solid Snake, Dante, and just about every original male character in the Kingdom Hearts games. Seriously, just about every one of them seems to have their own group of fangirls. But for me, the hottest member of the human race in video games has got to be Kratos, without question. Which is very odd for several different reasons. For one, he's not particularly a heroic, warm-hearted character. In fact, I'd say he represents a lot of things in video games that I tend to avoid. Thirst for revenge, ridiculous bloodlust, banging braless Greek chicks, all that good stuff. Second, I normally steer clear of buff guys who look like they've had one too many steroids. They're just a major turnoff for me. I guess because they look so ridiculous and overdone. Ugh, normally I can't stand them. But Kratos, he's an exception in all cases. For one thing, he's the only guy I know that can pull off the buff look. He really makes it work. It also helps that he runs around half naked 99% of the time, and anyone who knows me knows that I have a thing for flabby guys. I was gonna say, okay, but the key word for Kratos is tight. His entire body is like a nice, tightly wrapped package of man meat. I mean, you've got this thick chest, arms, abs, not to mention some legs to die for, and the tightest ass I've ever seen. Yeah, that's something you just know when you're playing most of the game with that view. Wow. This guy jocks off to God of War. I mean, me too, like fucking whatever, anyway. Like I said, all this normally turns me off, so what makes it all work here? Well, I think the main thing is that none of it is really overdone. He's buff enough to be just shy of being an over-tanned Playgirl model, but he has just enough meat to make it look natural and substantial. That, and I think his savage beast nature contributes a lot to that too. After all, he's basically just a monster in the form of a man. And monster is a good word to get me worked up. There's also something about the bald head and the goatee that appeal to me too, but I can't really put my finger on it. Maybe they make him even more beastly? And on top of that, he's just a kick-ass character in his own right. Oh yeah, and did I mention that each God of War game has a sex minigame in it? And each one features braless chicks for the straight guys? Assuming you do a great job in them and give the women what they want, you can bet that Kratos is very potent. Of course, you can't actually see the activity on screen, but hey, that just leaves more room to the imagination. In parentheses, it says drools a bit. So I can easily say that God of War is the game series that guys of all sexual orientations can enjoy. Fuck. The gay guys can enjoy goggling. The gay guys can enjoy ogling at Kratos, while the straight guys can have their fair share of boobalicious babes. Just watch out for Clotho in the second game. Although I would, and should be, afraid to go gay on Kratos. Because he will very likely rip my head off. But hey, it's just the nature of the beast. And Kratos is one sexy beast. I'm gonna have to divide this into parts, folks. It goes on. It's really up there. So, stay tuned for part 2, where I cover his 9th, 8th, and maybe 7th. We're really in it. I'm gonna change my hat. I really need a change of just scenery.